as an aside, I just found myself driving through the world famous 12th Street and Vine area of Kansas City, where Kansas City jazz really got its start. And this area has been loaded up with projects. This was a pretty notorious project development in Kansas City. And projects were kind of a misguided. That place says "Ever Eat Here." Almost looks like it says "Never Eat Here." No, "Ever Eat Here." Okay, that looks neat. Maybe I should try and eat there sometime. But projects were an effort to create public housing, but to do it really, really on the cheap. And I was doing some interesting reading on that and how projects were essentially an outgrowth of modernism, put people in modern high-rise buildings and stuff. But I think that to kind of quote Allen Ginsberg, and I'll probably say the word wrong, it's sort of the Moloch factor of it, that you essentially create this robotic-like machine that's impersonal and cold, and instead of helping people out, all you're doing is trying to do it on the cheap. And so the failure of projects en masse, to where they tore them all down, can be ascribed to a government effort to do things, but to do it on a budget. We have since decided that high-rise mass block structures, which end up looking like prison spaces more than living spaces, do kind of communicate that message. And we've started doing more low-rise townhouse things like this, and houses, and things that are more livable, more doable for families. And this area of Kansas City was the heart of the African American community, which unfortunately meant that there was a lot of poverty and discrimination. And so what did we do? We essentially tore down the heart of the community. This is a famous house here, and I won't go into it, but it's famous. Tore down the heart of the community and built a mass block structure, because I believe there were projects here en masse. And this used to be the heart of the African American entertainment district right here, 12th Street and Vine. They have a little memorial there. It looks like a little piano in the parking lot, and this park here is dedicated to it. And this is where a lot of people went to get to take in music and culture and life. And then we just had a recent controversy, Dr. Martin Luther King Drive, and there was a desire to make this an homage to the culture and the national hero. And a lot of people say, well, it was just voted down. They're going to change the signs back to the Paseo. This is the Paseo right here. And a lot of people are saying, well, that's because of racism. So I'm like, well, no, I don't agree. Personally, I don't agree with that. I think that the best street to name Martin Luther King would be a street that crosses all walks of life, races, and class structures. Not a street that's just apt to become another borderline and say, okay, well, Martin Luther King means that we'll redline this district and turn it into a place that realtors can wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say, you don't want to look there, without having to say, you don't want to look there, which is what it would become. So instead of giving people ammunition that they need to help destroy a race and class of people, why don't we give people the tools they can to build their community? And so I don't know which east-west street we should be looking at. I have some ideas, but I think that I would like to see a long street, one that crosses all the communities, not just Kansas City, and name it Martin Luther King, and have the spirit of it be, well, he's a national hero, and we all should be thankful that he represented all of us, not just the African American community, but everyone. So anyway, that was a side track derailed. That's the PTSD/ADHD kicking in, by the way. That's a joke. Anyway, I'm gonna go on about my day and edit this long-winded whatever it is, and maybe get the car washed, and I don't know, get something to trip quick. Woohoo! Anyway, I'm just delaying because now another interesting part of town has popped up, downtown, and I like doing these videos as my own personal vlog, daily diary, but also if anybody finds anything that I say interesting, which doesn't happen very often, I like to share my town. And when I'm out and about and randomly rambling like I am now, and I pass interesting parts of town, I like to share it. And we're still, now we're on 11th Street. 12th Street is a block south, but there's a memorial up at 12th and, 12th and Wyandotte, where all the big hotels are. And I'm not on that because it's one way going this way, so I'm passing the one way going west. But the memorial is to all the famous jazz musicians that used to come through town and play here, and most of them were African American, and they used to play at a lot of the downtown hotel ballrooms and things like that. Unfortunately, and I believe this is the truth, and this is a sad truth, that what they would do is they would play, but they'd have to come in through the back because Kansas City was a segregated town. And they had to come in through the back, and they basically were treated like servants. And while they were welcome to play in the ballrooms and stuff, because their music was certainly in demand, they were not welcome to go there or stay in the hotels or shop at any of the downtown businesses. So there's another district here, 12th and 18th and Vine, not 12th and Vine, 18th and Vine, which was the black business district, and that's where African Americans would shop, eat, conduct business, and do whatever. And a lot of the musicians would play in town at the hotels, but they would be playing music that was it was like the dance music of the time, and it wasn't something that they necessarily, although it was an invention of many African American musicians, composers and stuff, it was not something that they necessarily enjoyed playing over and over again. You know, they had to play the standard songs and things that were popular, and things that would get people up off the dance floor and dance and drink and yada yada yada. Well, so after the bars would close, or the place they were playing would close, they would go to the local musicians union, which is at 18th and Highland, and they would jam all night until the sun would come up. And the music they would play would be what they wanted to play, and it would be a lot of it would be noodling around. Essentially they would develop their styles and their chops, and it would be like a big practice session, and that's how they would get to be very good musicians. And from Kansas City after 1938, because a lot of musicians couldn't really make a living here after that time, because they drove Pendergast into jail, and he was kind of the one that made Kansas City a wide open town. They took the music from Kansas City and went to places like New York and Chicago, and then eventually to Paris. No Turn on Red. So Paris and Germany, and not so much Germany in 1938, because they weren't into that because of, Nazis. But I mean after that time. And from Kansas City, it essentially spread all over the world. But in the meantime, Kansas City just turned its back on it. And said, we want to forget that. We want to forget the Pendergast era. We don't like that black people and white people got together in our town and had shared something and had a good time. And so that is really to our discredit and shame. Although now Kansas City, I won't say it's wrong to do this, but Kansas City takes a lot of credit for that. And I don't know, you can't take credit without acknowledging the real history behind it. And I see a lot of towns in this country lay claim to a lot of music culture and heritage without necessarily acknowledging that it was something that came out of Kansas City first. And so Kansas City really needs to step up and claim it. And we've tried. I just passed through the 18th and Vine District. We've been trying, but our efforts keep falling short because of a lot of factors, a lot of reasons. And I think it's up to all of us to just kind of pay homage to the greatness that is our city. And so, like I say, I like sharing my town. And one of the possibilities that I might be doing something that might work for me in the meantime, because I really have to go part-time because of the kids, and having to ferry the kids around a lot, and I can't work crazy hours anymore. But one of the things I've been thinking about is possibly Ubering, and in that way I can work and make some money, but still have flexible hours that I can essentially pick up kids, take them to where they need to go, things like that. So anyways, I've been delaying and telling tall tales long enough, but I still want to tell more. Oh God. Well, imagine you're one of my passengers and I'm like Ubering you and I'm taking you through interesting places of town, and I have to work on my shtick because I'm a very boring person. I've been, the title of my thing is The Boorish Redundant. But anyway, here's River Key, and I've done a blog on River Key. I just noticing that the street is named Honorable Marion Trezzolo Way. Marion Trezzolo was a person who made independently wealthy. He bought up a lot of these buildings and turned them into lofts, and it became like the Greenwich Village of the West, until a big mafia war destroyed everything. So the history tells us. I have alternative theories, but it would take too long to go there, and I've been told many, many times by experts that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. Most people would agree with the experts. But so anyway, I think the only other interesting parts of the city that I can go ADHD on or PTSD on is the fact that we're traveling on the Jefferson Highway right now. And Jefferson Highway passed through Kansas City. And there's a bridge up here called the Armorsmith-Burlington Bridge, which is the way the Jefferson Highway used to cross the Missouri River. And up until 1987, you could drive on it. There was an upper deck bridge part where cars would, and it was very poor repair by the time they closed it. Very scary. People said that you could drive over it, and if you look down, you could see the water through the holes in the bridge. And there were a lot of accidents because the bridge actually had to go around the superstructure of the bridge. But it's interesting because it was a double deck bridge. It had cars on top and trains below, and they have removed the upper deck where the cars went, but the trains still pass on it. That's just why it's still being used. This is the bridge that replaced the ASB bridge, or Armorsmith-Burlington. That over there is the Armorsmith-Burlington Bridge. It's a drawbridge type structure. Trains still go over it, and the cars used to pass along the sides here, I think. Somehow. Yeah, they used to pass along the sides, and they had to go over this part and then around that superstructure because it wouldn't go through. Although, I may be wrong. There may have been like a lane that went through too. And there were many times when people weren't paying attention, they'd crash right into the superstructure. And it was very narrow, very scary. A lot of people would say their prayers before they'd cross the bridge. It was built in 1909. It took them, actually it was started in the 1800s and then finished about 1909. Predated the Jefferson Highway. And yeah. I don't know what else I could say that's entertaining. It's just a very interesting structure. I hope it's preserved for a long time because very interesting piece of history. But let's just say that I'm glad I'm not traveling across it these days, because that would be scary. Oh, anyways, I'll wrap it up here in North Kansas City. So, see ya.